Janet Patry, thank you so much for coming on, because I know you're going back to Nairobi, Kenya very soon, where you started a business, Right to Thrive. You grew up in West Haven. You did a number of things before you got to Kenya, Central Park Conservancy, Yale New Haven Center for Emergency Preparedness and Disaster Response, IBM Healthcare Division. You did a bunch of other things. So how does a girl from West Haven get to Nairobi, Kenya? What happens in your life to take you there?
Well, this girl from West Haven was always interested in traveling. And straight out of high school, I went and lived in New York City and absolutely loved it. So I instantly had a liking for new culture and different places. So Kenya was on the list of places that I always wanted to go. Oh yeah, definitely. Even in high school and college, I was writing papers about Kenya. I had a curiosity about it from
Where did it come from, do you know?
I don't know. I just know it was just something I always wanted to do.
So it just popped into your mind and you read about it. So now you live there sometimes. You had corporate life here in America.
Yeah.
You left that and you started this nonprofit, Right to Thrive.
Yeah.
What's it about and why did you start it?
Well, in 2007, I took a volunteer vacation. I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't.
Okay.
Explain.
All right. I went through International Volunteer Headquarters, and they themselves are an organization that sets up people who want to travel the world and see places but want to volunteer. So I thought, well, I'm going to Kenya. I want to go on safari, but I also want to experience what life is like for these people there. So I wanted to volunteer at an orphanage. And I was assigned to this one particular children's home. And while I was there were 22 girls there at the time. And while I was there, I realized that they're not in school, and they were just barely educated at this point. Some had been in and out of school, and they desperately wanted to go. So they're asking me to teach them English, science, math, and I was not the ideal student growing up. So I'm thinking, I'm not the person that should be teaching you. But they wanted to learn so badly that I went to the local market and I bought all the textbooks. And then I came back and I was studying the textbooks at night so that I could teach them the next day.
So a calling for you to change lives in Nairobi, Kenya, do you think? Or just looking into the faces of these children saying, we want to learn?
It was the children.
You?
It was these girls in particular. They were incredible. And I'm looking at their life from my American perspective and thinking, wow, they have nothing. There are no beds, there are no blankets, they don't have shoes, they have nothing, and they're not even in school. So I'm thinking they'd be miserable, and they're not. They're singing, they're dancing, they're laughing, they're playing games with me all day long, and I'm thinking, I think I have everything all wrong. Here I am chasing a big fat paycheck and success, and really this is about relationships with people. Ultimately, I think that's the most important thing in our lives, and I built a relationship with them, and before I left, I made a promise that I would make sure they went to school.
So how did you go about building this nonprofit? What happened? Gotta be hard work.
Yes, but at the same time, I'm lucky because my career was in nonprofit, so I was surrounded by this all the time. And in that way, I had people that I could go to and ask for advice on how to start this organization. And I had incredible people behind me the whole way that were assisting. So I just applied for a 501c3 and got it.
But it's in another country. Did you apply for it there or in the United States?
Here. I applied for it here so that I could fundraise here. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized this was something that we do need here. So I didn't want to limit it just to Kenya. It's just that Kenya sparked this for me. So my biggest focus was on these girls and making sure they got into school. But I felt like that it would be easier to fundraise if I had a 501c3 so that people would get tax deductions.
So Right to Thrive is global in your eyes?
It is. Oh, definitely. This is just the starting point.
Tell me more. Where is it going to go from here?
Anywhere. I would like it to be on every continent. I don't think there is a continent that exists that doesn't have the same dilemma.
To do what? What is it that you're trying to do?
Well, we empower people, and we do that through free education programs. So people that are living in disadvantaged situations don't have access to education. So for the adults that we're working with, we bypass all of the the 10 years they should have been in school, and we get right to the point that they need to know, which is some English for business and some finance.
And a skill to make money.
Exactly.
You went over to Kenya and you started making these things, or they did. And how does this fit into Right to Thrive?
Excellent question. So When I first fundraised to get these girls into school, I obviously developed a relationship with these kids. So I get them into school, buy them beds, buy them shoes, get them everything that they need.
Because you had raised enough money to do this.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And I was taking trips back and forth twice a year to do projects, and we built dorms for them. They were living on a floor, so then we had beds built for them, all this stuff. But through all of that, I'm building a relationship with them and getting to know them, and I realized that these girls are not all orphans. They are abandoned. And that just, in my mind, like, how is this happening that you were left at a bus stop? I mean, honestly, like, mom takes the kids to a bus stop, says, I'm going to get a soda, and never returns. And these girls have no idea what happened. And so getting to know them and hearing their stories made me want to know more about how kids were being abandoned. Orphans, I understand. There's a lot of disease in Kenya, so that I get. But the abandonment, I didn't. And so I went out into the community and spoke to people and actually met some of these mothers who had given up their kids, and they were
And what
so
did they tell you?
traumatized.
Because they
Poverty.
had to, they couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it. And that they thought the only hope was to leave them on their own. And I thought, well, let me do something to help these caregivers, whether it's mothers, aunts, grandmothers, fathers, whoever it is. I want to help them learn a skill that helps them earn an income so that they can keep their kids.
How big a board do you have that's helping you do this?
Right now we have 8 board members.
So with 8 people, you're changing the world for right now.
We're trying.
Tell me about what we have here and what this is made out of. And
Sure.
you have some interesting ideas. It's waste, correct?
This is waste. These are recycled plastic bags. This was, you know, a Walmart bag, a Target bag, and we turned it into...
That are found on the streets?
Yeah,
Or?
we find them, we collect them, so people have, you know, purchased things and we take them. I go around and ask people for all their plastic bags. I bring some from the US, and then we teach them how to crochet the bag. The silver here is actually candy wrappers. So it's a mix of different plastics
And they
that
come
we
with
find.
tags, and what's on this tag?
The tag tells you about the individual who made this bag.
And
So
who is this?
This was made by Helen.
And who is Helen?
Helen is 51 years old and has 2 children. She loves cosmetology and beauty. She works as a tailor making clothes, curtains, and handbags. So
Before she started doing this, what was she doing?
struggling is what it was. And so the first class we offer to people is personal empowerment, because we find that even if people are working, it's casual labor, it's not regular income, and they're struggling, so their self-esteem is low. So we work on that first, and we do a whole worthiness course with them and build their self-esteem. And then once they're feeling good about themselves and believing in themselves, now is the time to learn this skill, because this is not easy.
Yeah, no, I can't
Crocheting
imagine.
plastic is not easy.
What are these made out of?
Those are made of paper.
I'm going to hold
And-
this up so we can get a shot of this.
yeah.
They're made of paper, and then they're covered in varnish to make them shiny.
Exactly.
What were some of these papers you were telling me before?
These are posters, magazines, and calendars. In particular, some of these are post-election posters. So in 2013, we had a presidential election, and they papered the town with these posters, and we pulled them down when the election was over, and we turned them into jewelry and handbags. This is actually made from paper as well.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you.
What do they sell for in Kenya?
In Kenya, it's a different pricing, but we would sell this for $20 in Kenya.
In Kenya. And here you try to sell them online here?
We do, and we sell them at fundraisers, at events. I sometimes go into people's homes and I'll invite their friends over and I'll talk about Right to Thrive, and then I'll put these out for them to purchase.
Let's show some pictures of you in Kenya doing your thing. Now these are the beads.
They are.
And they're beautiful. And so they're the colors of whatever you find.
Exactly, and I feel like we get very lucky. Because they're posters, they're trying to grab attention, so there's great color. These are drying in the sun. We have 2 clotheslines that we've put out, and then we drape them over both so that they can dry. They need to be spaced so they don't stick together.
You've got this down pat. And she's making some of these beads, correct?
I think, yes, she is. She's stringing the beads. Okay, so
How much work is involved in these? I mean, just the tightness of each bead.
Once you get on a roll, you can get very good at these. I love rolling these beads. They're like a meditation.
I should have had you on to show us
I
that.
should have. It's very relaxing to roll beads. And we have these women, they're sitting in a circle, they're talking about their lives, personal issues, they're giving each other advice.
Almost like a quilting bee,
Yes.
if you will. Okay.
And we have rules in the class where you can't gossip, and you can't talk about negative things unless you're seeking a solution.
Wow.
Right. So
you
you're rolling
should
a
be-
bead and solving your
You should be a
problems.
world leader at some point. Let's look at some other pictures that we have of you in Kenya.
That's Wafula. He's our program manager. He used to be our intermediate English instructor and my personal Swahili instructor.
How's it going?
Oh, it's a little rough right
Little
now.
shaky?
I've been here too long,
Okay.
but when I'm there, it comes back.
Are these some of the kids, they have masks on, is that because of the varnish that they're using?
I see. These masks were for a different project. We do a community leadership development project, and we took a group of girls from the community, we went out and we cleaned up the streets. So we got brooms and garbage bags, and we used those masks to protect them from the dirt, because it's dirt roads, so it was very dirty as we were sweeping.
We have another picture, some children.
Those are the children living at that home that I was assigned to in 2007. Some of them were there in 2007 and inspired me to start Right to Thrive.
Many of these abandoned, these children? Or many?
Many. More abandoned than orphaned.
And look at the smiles on their face.
Yeah, they're a happy lot. This woman, I believe, she just made a bag. So it looks like she's stringing these beads into a bag.
What do you think about when you come back to America, and now you're going to go back for another year. You've been here for 2 months. What world are you in? Are you in between somewhere, or are you mostly in Kenya in your mind? Who are you now after this big experience?
I will say my heart is always in Kenya. Everything I'm doing here, I'm thinking about those kids or the parents and keeping them with their kids. I'm constantly focused on keeping those families together. So they're always on my mind. But here, in terms of just regular everyday things, the first day I was here, I drove on the wrong side of the road. And I don't even drive in Kenya, but I'm so used to just being on the other side of the road if I'm in a vehicle that I just did that. So that was scary. Then when I went into Stop and Shop, I was very overwhelmed. My mom asked for a half and half, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll pick up some half and half. And there were too many varieties. I was extremely overwhelmed. From 99 cents to $5, half and half. How can we have this many choices?
How do you live your life in Kenya? Describe it. Describe a day for me. Where do you live? How do you live? How do you get around?
I live in an apartment in an area that it's a gated area. So I'm about 20 to 30 minutes from the area that I work in. I attempted to live in the area that I work, but I found that in the morning people would be waiting to speak to me and ask me for money and ask me for help, and it was just too overwhelming, and I couldn't really be successful in what I was doing. So I'm about 20 minutes away, depending on traffic. I take a matatu,
Which is what?
Which is essentially, it's a minivan with about 14 seats in it, but they jam-pack people in there, and they blast reggae music. So for me, it's actually a whole lot of fun going to work. I thoroughly enjoy the music, and I'm just sort of going with it. And then, so I take that all the way into Kabiria, which is the area that I work in. And then I arrive at the Empowerment Center where we teach these classes. So we teach crochet, we teach paper beads. Those are income generating classes. But we also teach basic English, intermediate English, and then the personal empowerment, which is the first class that they take.
So what's next for you? And how can the population help you help others?
What's next is we really need to expand and enhance our programs because the need is great, and I feel like we're doing good stuff with the group that we're helping, but I would really like to help a lot more people.
How do you help Americans here?
Oh, the same way. Sitting down with people and explaining to them that it is their right to thrive, that they do not have to fall into some category that somebody put them in and live a particular life according to that. Everybody has choices every single day, and you can choose to believe something different about yourself, and you can believe that you are worthy of the life that you have dreamed of, and then you can go pursue that. And that's what I do. I work with people to make them realize this is your life, make choices that make you happy, and go do that like I do.
How do the political figures in Kenya feel toward you? And have you had any brushes with that?
I have, with the local political figures. And I've had some that were great interactions and people were very, very supportive. But I think the perception is always that I should be funding even government activities, that we should be giving them money so that they can do their jobs better because there's so much corruption involved in the finances there. But then I've had encounters where we've invited politicians to our community center and people get to ask them questions and they become very real and they start to hear the problems from people directly and understand it a little bit better. So I've had interesting encounters. I've had nothing profoundly negative, I will say that.
Really? You've
Yeah.
never been afraid? You've never
Never.
had any incidents where you thought, oh, what am I doing this for?
No, never. If anything, anytime I have doubt or frustration with something, it just fuels the fire for me. It's like, okay, this makes me want to work a lot harder to understand and solve these problems. And then it makes me see it differently when I'm here also. It's, I start to see the problems here in a different light and realize we're going about this wrong. It all comes back to empowering a person to be the best version of themselves. And then the world automatically becomes a better place.
Janet Patry, thanks so much for coming on and helping to change the world.
Thank you so much for having me, Anne.